Okay, so now we're going to Maplibre land to do the same stuff we just did in Leaflet land. So we're going to first add like a basic pop-up and look at some of the ways pop-ups are added, and then we'll do this dynamic thing. And in Maplibre, there's going to be a bit more overlap. Anyway, I think we might get through it a little faster than Leaflet stuff because I was introducing a lot of concepts, but here, some of them are repeated. So let's see how it goes. So in Maplibre, we have something called a marker, right, which we've done, but there's also something called a pop-up. And down here, they have an example, which, okay, they create this pop-up. Okay, so just like Leaflet, there's a thing called a pop-up. Now, in the Maplibre one, we are, first of all, doing it with a basic marker, and they have something that's not so different than the bind pop-up, right? We have this set pop-up thing, and in that, we just do Maplibre pop-up and set HTML. And this is very similar to the bind pop-up thing that we had in Leaflet. There's a few more functions to do with it. It's not just like one, oh, bind pop-up. You have to actually make the pop-up and set the HTML, but set HTML is kind of the same thing. And in Leaflet, I think it's called set content, right? We ran into that. So basic same idea here. Now, that'll work. So let's just load that up and we will click and it says marker pop-up bound, which is what we wanted. And of course, always you can check in the GitHub code that I've attached to this course. You can always check, and I try to put the links for things. So, okay, we have this marker. Now let's just add just a straight pop-up to the map. We can just do that directly by setting a latitude and longitude on a marker that we've created, setting the HTML, and adding it to the map. So if I just reload, it just shows up with a pop-up directly on the map immediately. Okay, so that's cool. Now, we can also do something similar to what we saw in the Leaflet example, which was this whole thing of like when we click the map showing the latitude and longitude, right? We did the same thing, this like dynamic pop-up, but isn't from like a marker. It's just from moving around the map. You can see things are very similar. Map.onClick, okay? And then we have this pop-up. We have to make sure we actually made the pop-up. So we made it here. And now we're referring to it just that way we did in Leaflet, this global pop-up, and then we refer to it. We set the long lat, which you can see is reversed from Leaflet. Leaflet was set lat long. This one's set long lat. We pass in some information from that from that event, right? So in Maplibre, that's structured just a little bit differently. You'd have to look at it. But there's a property in it called long lat that has longitude and latitude. So we set the long lat and then we set the HTML, and we do the same thing where we're turning it to a string and we're using this syntax, whatever. We don't need to know exactly what's happening here, but it's turning it into a string from whatever data format it was in. So we have it on click. So let's do that first. And then on mouse move, will basically be the same thing, just a different event. So it still loads in. And now when we click, you can say it's clicking the map and it's showing the latitude and longitude, which is changing. And then we change it to on mouse move, and we will take off the click thing. And this time, when it loads, we move this, and we can see that it works. There is some kind of different stuff where sometimes if I move quickly enough, I can get my mouse inside this pop-up, and that kind of screws it up. So it's not quite as simple, right? Because now it's not on the map, so there's no mouse move event happening. So maybe we have to make sure this pop-up gets opened at like a little farther away from the mouse or something like that. There's a bit more complication going on there, but the same basic idea is at play. Okay, so one thing I actually didn't mention in the Leaflet one is that it's going to be the same process whether you're adding it to a marker, a line, polygon, whatever in Leaflet. They're all treated the same, right? We have this L dot marker, L dot polyline, L dot polygon, and all of them have a bind pop-up method. You can do the same thing for all of them. But when it comes to Maplibre, it's a little different because we have this marker kind of thing, but it's not how our other geographies are made, right? Like we saw that before. To add the polygon and the line and to add certain types of points, we have to do this whole GeoJSON thing and make the source and make the layer. And once we do all that, then we get to deal with the pop-up. So here, we have to listen for events. That's really, it works kind of like we're listening for the events here. And like we saw in the more dynamic example of the GeoJSON in Leaflet, we had to listen for a click event and things like that. So here we're adding a polygon. So I'm just adding a polygon onto the map, okay? And then we do this, the map.onLoad stuff, right? So we wait for it to load, then we add a source, and then we add the layer, and the layer is called a fill type layer, and it's referring back to this source that was added called the polygon. If you're confused about this, just go quickly refresh and watch some of that Maplibre point or line, but hopefully this is all slotting in. I know it's, we're hitting Leaflet, we're hitting Maplibre, but the point is to get you used to both. And we add source, add layer, and then we have this on click, right? So we go map.onClick, okay? And then there's a second thing we can tell this, okay? So the map.onClick event that we've seen so far has just been map.onClick and then do a function, right? That's all we've seen so far. So every time the map is clicked, do a thing. Well, Maplibre has this thing you can do where you add a second parameter, you add a second bit of information here before you say the function, if you want. You don't have to do it. You can have just map.onClick. But what this does is it says, do something only if you clicked the layer I'm telling you about, right? Because here it's just click anywhere on the map. But in this case, we only want this pop-up to appear when we click the polygon that we added. So we're telling it here, oh, when you click the polygon layer, then run this function. So that's a little bit different, and you can find it in the documentation, but you can kind of just know that that's something you can do. You can do on click of a specific layer, then run something, okay? And then again, we can do things like console log the E from it, and we're gonna get a little deeper into this because there's actually a bit more in the dynamic thing. We're gonna get farther, but this is just to show you what you have to do when you add a polygon. You can't do a maplibre.polygon and just add a lat long. To do just a basic thing like this, or if we just say, we're just going to say you clicked the polygon. Okay, so now we'll load it and we'll see what we get. Okay, so we're showing our pop-up, and okay, there's our random polygon. And now if I click it, it says you clicked the polygon. And if I click outside it, nothing happens because it's listening specifically to see if I clicked on that layer, right? So, okay, that's fundamentally how these pop-ups are going to work in Maplibre. In the next one, we'll look at adding it so you can actually get information out of this. So if this had some property like name, like we saw in the previous one, how are we going to show this in this little map.onClick? Okay, hopefully it's all making sense. See you in the next one.